Draw your spine up tall. Shoulders back. Now be very deliberate here. The spinal column and all its muscles are called up now. So lengthen your spine. So you should feel the center sort of line of your back drawing up. And you should feel about 3 inches, 1.5 inches or 2 on either side of that very central sort of groove of the spine. On either side of that groove of the spine, there are lumps of muscle that cover the vertebra, the sides of the vertebra. So if this is the spine here, this is the width of the column that you are drawing up, where my thumbs are. Pull that spine up, pull this spine up, this spine up, this spine up. Then use these arms and the downward pressure all the way from the skull, shoulder down. You'll feel these underneath rib muscles working too. They can lever the rib cage up. And more spine. Draw the shoulders back and down. Scoop, so to speak, the rib cage up. Rest your head on top of this column. Gradually keep the height of this column. Now start blending these 2 things we've just done. Pull up the spine and then activate through the arms. That's just part of this coming up. Now you have to recruit, if you haven't already, the breathing, which is going to help you sense and organize this inner body. What's in between the spine and these muscles on the outside. Abdomen, chest, lungs. Also creating space between and around them with the breath, pelvis, abdomen, chest, throat, head. Join your palms. Release the arms from the skull to the hands. Keep the height of the ribs and spine. Keep the space on the interior of the trunk. In this quiet space, pay homage to this practice and to the teachers who have brought this knowledge to us, reaching back to Sage Patanjali. And bow to this practice. Release your hands, raise your head, and open your eyes. Stretch your legs. let's see, just start easy. We're actually heading toward the back bends that we as a group can do today. Some of you will go a little farther, some of you will not for reasons of injuries or whatever, stiffness, whatever. That's fine. Take your legs apart, Upavishta Konasana. Stretch well through those legs. Now, just turn and lean, the purpose being stretch this side of the hip. Now, if you're more flexible in Upavishta, you of course can sit on the floor. You don't need your blankets, but I'm looking for side hip stretch. So you can go like this. This is almost like Parshva Upavishta Konasana, but it's a start. We're not doing the final pose. Stretch your side. Stretch your side. Find some side to stretch. Okay. Now, blankets out of the way. No, first things first. Look, if you're very stiff, you take support under the wrists. Tall blocks, short blocks. If the shoulder, Emilia, right, support, so the arm is safe. You're going to arrange for Supta Urdhva Hastasana. Okay. And that support is for when the shoulder doesn't feel safe in full extension. So you give support. Okay, so first, lengthen that spinal column from the base of the pelvis to the skull. Then tuck your shoulder blades. They release away from the spine and skull. Shoulder blades down, spine long, then stretch. You can hold on to the sticky mat to maintain length in the spine as you stretch the legs away. So you're slowly spreading yourself out on the floor, first the trunk and across the shoulders, and then the legs out to those feet. Then you take the arms to the ceiling, but keep those shoulders on the floor, arms vertical, shoulders on the floor. And watch where I point. It's this top arm bone that has to move toward the shoulder. This biceps moves toward the shoulder. This triceps is very strong. And the whole joint stays toward the floor as you stretch the arm overhead. So biceps to the shoulder, shoulder blade stays down, triceps on the back of the arm is firm, and that shoulder socket stays on the floor, whether your hand goes to a brick or the floor. Stretch. Stay there if you can, get longer. Stay there, get longer. Now, you will notice, some of you, that the rib cage is tilted or the lumbar spine is tilted. Don't flatten the lumbars, but see if you can open the armpits more so that the sternum and front ribs spread away from the arms. Stretch. feet, arms. Then bend your elbows, bend your knees, come out, get ready to come out. Move one thing at a time. So if that was safe, Emilia, keep it. If it was not safe, then you either modify or steer clear. You need a brick. And if you're using support for the wrists, you keep it. Otherwise, you need a brick, okay? Keep whatever you had for your shoulders. So if you're feeling stiff, take a flat brick. But I think almost everybody would benefit, maybe everybody would benefit from this half-high brick on its side. Underneath the lowermost sacrum, so that this bottom line that points toward my feet is lined up with my lower sacrum, tailbone. Now I tuck my shoulders and lift those ribs as far away from the hips as possible. So my thumbs are pointing this way. It's as if I'm trying to expand my rib cage away from the hips and tuck my shoulders to the floor. And if that goes well, I stretch my legs. So I'm in a low setu bandha. That sacrum has a curve to it. So as you stretch your legs, the pelvis is going to roll to partially follow the leg. You need to keep the ribs away from that action. So you just lengthens in both directions. Then the arms come up and over. Shoulder sockets staying on the floor. Shoulder blades on the back. Arms go overhead after you get those ribs lifted. Arms stretching, ribs lifting. So your sensation is that of the spinal cord extension. That was what we addressed first. Then the second is the arrangement of arms, legs, shoulders, hips. And the third thing is the integration of the breathing to release that third layer, you might say, that inner body. Now, stretch far here. If you did this right, it doesn't feel like a giant back bend, but it's got all the ingredients, all of them. Now, one thing at a time, bend your knees, come out. Hips out. You can keep them up briefly and then lower them. And roll to your side, come up sitting. So the next thing is a left-right stabilizer. And it goes back to, I get this from Elise Miller and her scoliosis workshop, where there's, you know, all kinds of aches and pains and bilateral asymmetries. So I want to address bilateral asymmetries in these spinal muscles front and back. So you're on your hands and knees, just watch for a second, and toes turned under, like this, heels up, toes under, and join those knees and feet. Then stretch the right leg back, toes on the floor. And when you do that, observe the two sides of the pelvis, two sides of the rib cage, level them, and level the two sides of the navel. Then lift the leg and stretch long. Then lift the opposite arm, right leg, left arm. Lift that navel, stretch that lumbar spine backwards and forwards. Powerfully, don't over raise the leg. Lena, lower the leg a bit and stretch it for, there you go, fully straight. And the arm completely forward. Pull out the length of your spine from your toes to your hand. And then come out. Two knees, two arms on the floor. And for a brief rest, you can just come back to a little Adho Mukha Virasana. And then come back up, sprawling, join your knees, shins, feet, turn your toes under, level your spine, lengthen the waist. Now, left leg comes back, toes on the floor, level hips, level waist. That's right to left and top to bottom. So don't start developing a sway back. So when you lift your leg, you're in a curve. Keep the navel lifted and the left leg, buttock long. Then the right arm comes up and you pull that right arm forward, left leg back. Keep the right waist long, left waist long. And come out and go back to an Adho Mukha Virasana, rest, buttocks to heels, maybe the head supported on something. Just be quiet there for a moment. Then come up, do it again. Knees, feet. Now, Vicky, turn sideways. Everybody who's turned sideways to me, stay sideways. If you, Cliff and Gay, if you can turn sideways to the camera, I want to see that. Okay. Good, good. Now, even if you run into the bed with your foot, just use it as a stabilizer, a placemaker, placeholder. You ready? Right leg back first. And then level that body and raise the leg. And even if you've got to hold it against that wall, that's fine. Touch your toe, touch your heel. Now, lengthen that body and stretch your arm forward. If your space is limited, bend your elbow and reach your triceps forward. If you've got all the room to stretch to the fingers, do. Stretch that back leg back, lengthen your trunk forward, lift your navel, roll your buttocks. Go as long as you can in that back, and then come down. It's a very peculiar use of the spinal muscles and extension at the same time. Side two, feet together, toes under, left leg out, and raise it up. Lift that navel, stretch the leg fully, and then up goes the right arm. Vicky, lower the heel a little bit. That's it. Now push from the lumbar spine to the buttocks back. Stretch that back body. Pull so you can feel it. Breathe. Make breath in that waist, and out you come back to Adho Mukha Virasana. And then Adho Mukha Svanasana. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Raise your heels enough to make length in the waist. Come out for one moment. Watch what I do. I take a normal length between hands and feet in dog pose, but hand to hand, I go to the width of the sticky mat. And if you see it, I just turned out slightly with the hands, not straight forward, but slightly. Kind of follows the spread of the arms. The feet also go, if you see this, to the width of a mat, so wider than your shoulders and hips. And up you go with dog pose. And in this spread, not hugely spread, you want to go up. You go up now. The rest is just what you're doing in the pose. So make sure you're comfy and those wrists are even. So that sticky mat shape between your two hands, 2 feet, that rectangle of sticky mat, you want to feel like your hands and feet are kind of holding it broad and flat. Keeping it broad and flat. Your eyes kind of see that expanse. Your body through to arms and legs feels that expanse. So place that sense of that on your back and spread your back as vastly as you see that sticky mat spreading. There are no wrinkles in that mat. The mat is wide. Feel your breathing searching the skin of your back to open it out. And this image, I think it comes from Mary Dunn, who is very good with images, but it's like your back skin is a sail, and you are your breath is the wind that fills that sail. Out you come to Uttanasana. Feet may be as wide as the sticky mat, maybe hip width. And bricks under the hands if you need them, because we're going to Ardha Uttanasana, which means you need room to make that spine long. So now you've got this mini expanse of sticky mat that you're watching at the floor. And you are opening and lengthening your back. Stretch your legs. Lift the ribs. Keep your legs reaching backward as your spine extends forward. Draw down with the arms towards your feet, away from your skull, so you recruit those muscles to help lift that thoracic spine forward, headward. Now keep your back broad, exhaling. Spread your back all the way down. Bend your elbows. Take the whole Uttanasana, broad back, long back. Shoulder sockets away from hip sockets. Widen your elbows. Now, keep your legs straight. Prepare to come up. Hands to the hips. Inhale, come up. Get a bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you need a bunch of blankets. Everybody needs, I should really say, you need 2 bolsters or a bolster and 2 bricks in front of your bolster. And if you're missing bolsters, then you need a pile of blankets that you fold to the equivalent of a bolster height. You could roll or fold. You just gotta come up high there. Right, so there are various ways of doing this to create something like a bolster and something like another bolster or a pile of blankets right next to each other.
Does it matter if the 2 stacks are the same height?
It's good if they're the same height. It's not essential, but you do need some lift on the other side of this one bolster. You need some height. Doesn't have to be super high. Okay. You pretty much ready? Okay. Just watch, and you can do, I attach myself to a wall just for balance. Then I stretch my right thigh. Standing up straight, picking up that right heel. Look how my hand holds my foot. It's pulling my foot away from the knee. It's pulling my foot on the line with the shin. And my front thigh is extending toward the knee. And my spine finds a long curve as the heel comes toward the buttock. So I usually say something like roll the buttocks down, lift the pubis up, but I don't want you freezing or hardening the low back in any way. So there may be a little pelvic tilt at first, and you're allowed to keep it. You just have to lengthen it. So your chest comes up and your heel stretches up. Take your right heel up. Now, I see some of you face on, and that reminds me to tell you to keep your thighs roughly parallel to each other. Now use that shoulder, and Emilia, you can use your other hand to do the work, or a strap with the other hand so you don't strain that tendon or muscle. Change sides, please. And I'm assuming you're getting some kind of stretch here. I only see the lower half of many of you, so I can't quite tell. But you've got the right idea physically. I want the front thigh, front hip to stretch. And I want the spine to lengthen away from that front thigh in an even fashion, even if that sacrum, tilts out and the belly comes forward. Find a continuous line of extension so that you can correct that by extension, not by grip. And out you come. And then we go to these props. I'm going to move this forward. This doesn't have to be. So you come down first on the pelvis on your bolster, toes turned under, start sliding back. And that sliding is pulling the skin of the belly toward the navel. And that way it's kind of passively extending your buttocks and your sacrum. You back up till your pubis is on the floor. If this bothers your abdomen, you need to put more support under your elbows so you can depressurize the gallbladder. Now you come back so the pubis and hip socket are on the floor. Then roll your front thighs toward each other and your heels away from each other. So it's like this. You roll your front thighs toward each other and heels away from each other. This broadens the back thigh. Then stretch your legs. Okay. And I mean stretch your legs. Stretch, stretch, stretch. Stretch with that back thigh broad. And you push your elbows down and pull your ribs forward. So your low back gets long on that bolster, pubis on the floor. Ribs coming away from the pubis. I am hoping this feels good on the back, okay? Pull, stretch your leg, pull your ribs. Okay, cross the left arm onto that support and stretch your right arm forward. Reach your legs back. Keep the elbow straight. Raise the arm if you can, open the armpit. Raise the arm up to ear height if you can, and then come out and cross that arm down onto your blanket pile. Stretch your legs, ribs forward. Brace and stretch the left arm forward. Reach the legs, reach the waist. Do not crimp even a little bit. Keep your belly and ribs on that support and move the rib cage and your thoracic muscles to raise that arm. Keep the belly long on that bolster, and out you come. Now, you can come out, take a small break, and reset. Okay, so you can push out and you can come on back and get any crimp out that got in there, and then you come back in. Okay, roll those front thighs toward each other, heels apart. Pubis, that lower border of the pubis should be touching. Now, brace with the left hand and bend the right knee. The first thing that happens when the pelvis is tight is the hips lift up. So keep that pubis on the floor. Keep that hip socket down and bend your knee. Move your ribs away from the hips and reach back if you can. And Amelia, by all means, use a belt so you don't irritate that biceps. Okay? Turn your ribs forward. So whatever is on this bolster whatever was on it in symmetry stays here in asymmetry. Now, push down with the arm, lift your chest up, and see if you can bring this foot in. I don't care how you turn your hand, but see if you can bring that heel in. I'm not worried about the hand right now. Keep the pelvis down, ribs forward, just bend and bring that heel in as far as it'll go. And release it, come out, and reset, roll that thigh back in, pelvis down, prop up on your, now it's the right elbow, and bend the left knee. Keep the pelvis, pubis, on the floor, and the abdomen even on that bolster support. Don't let the base of the rib cage twist. Even as you reach back to catch your ankle, you do it from the shoulder and above in the rib cage. Keep the legs stretching. Don't worry about your hand. Make it comfy. So you, because some people will pull on the ankle. Don't clasp it, just pull on that shin, the top shin, if you're gonna go there. And bring the buttock back toward the heel, back toward the buttock. Now turn that belly, those ribs, Pratima, keep the base of the rib cage facing forward. Lena, that shoulder chest should come up and back. Yes, so push down with that right arm to help. And out you come, slowly, slowly. Okay, and then slide at that, maybe take Adho Mukha Svanasana, make yourself comfy for a second. Are you okay? Is this annoying to the low back, or are you able to stay safe?
I'm safe, but you said that your hip blade should stay on the floor and mine just can't.
No, hip blades, not on the floor, pubis on the floor.
Okay, the pubis of the bent leg does not stay fully on the floor.
Okay, then what would happen if you backed up a bit?
Okay.
And then this is going to tell you right here. You have to go on for it right here. So yeah, back up farther. So you put a little more space. If that's not uncomfortable to the belly or the organs or the ribs, does that make more sense? Does that give you some more room? It's still, well, you know, the other thing you could do is put a riser, put a little shim there. Because the reason is, if that pubis doesn't go down, you don't have a ground for the pose. Yeah. So yeah, so you want to feel, Pratima, do you feel that now that hip socket can have something to make contact with? Okay, so now, Vicky, is it something you can push on and work from? Good. Good. Anybody else? If you, now, it doesn't want to be, just as a reminder, doesn't want to be a cheater helper that helps you just lift your pelvis up and like not worry about opening that front hip anymore, because you don't need to. It's a way of making it possible for you to recruit more of your muscles, joints, mind, nerve to do that pose. So you have a sense now of continuity between the back and the thigh, perhaps, instead of a pose that just breaks in the middle. Yeah, do change sides, back and forth. Now, Emilia, if the arm is not willing, just take Supta Virasana, stretch your front thighs. Give it another minute or so. Okay, are we getting done on both sides? So you roll to your side, come out. Okay, so tell me, are you okay for another type of back bend that follows through on this? You ready? You're not, is anybody needing to stop because back bends are getting worse? You okay? Let's proceed then. Clear off an open spot. And I'm going to get rid of my sticky mat, make a bare patch of floor so my chair is a little bit mobile, just in case. You do not have to do this. Now, let me see. People with back problems take a long sticky mat and fold it. This is a blanket. Take a blanket and fold it longwise and lay it through the chair, sort of through the middle. So it becomes a sort of a thick pad and it helps you soften up the back. Not everybody needs this, but if you have back problems, it's a way of keeping things gentle. And you probably need a bolster with a bunch of blankets or the equivalent. I'll leave that there. However many blankets you need. This is going to be a support for your head. Okay. Now, got one more thing. This can be done with a blanket or a spare sticky mat if you're running out of blankets. Last thing. You take this open blanket like this and you tuck, I'm going to push this up so you see the chair back. I push just a little bit of that blanket over the top of the chair seat and I keep a bunch of it on the floor right there. And then this flaps down. That's what it looks like. Ready? Watch. I sit through that chair and I put my hips on the end of the chair seat. If you remember the brick under the hips at the beginning of class, it starts out or winds up right there. It's in that neighborhood. Lengthen the spine, go over the back of the chair and hold your head. Tuck your shoulder blades toward the chair. Lift your ribs. Integrate the breath with the abdomen. And as you do, this starts spreading out, opening up, and your head can come down onto its support. So if all goes well, now, you can keep your arms crossed and they might be able to rest overhead, but you might have to pull in a second chair or a support so the arms can rest here, if that makes any sense. You just pile some more height up so you don't irritate the shoulder. The rest of you, the arms can stretch straight. So I'm like holding on to my bolster there. And then the legs can stretch. And you adjust so you feel balanced on the chair. So it's a head-supported Urdhva Dhanurasana. Nothing seriously special. Lots of support for those low backs. And the head needs comfortable support. Now, be real good, Chaya. Oh, I see. It's not bad. Yeah, good. So, Lena, there, no chair. Is that true? Okay, are these the props that you have? Yes, pillows, blankets. So, can you make some kind of pile? Now watch. You make the pile, make it stable, and turn it this way. Must be stable, can't be tippy. So it should be happily upright. Yes. Now, all right. Good. Now, that's like this. So you sit here and you bring your spine down and you let your head down and you let your legs down. Now you make sure the top of your head goes to the floor, not the back. So you kind of back up on this so you feel your neck comfortably supported. Hips a little further. Yes, 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 yes. Now, yes. Okay. Now, be like that for a bit and find somewhere comfy and stretch your legs if you can. If you can't, just be happy with that chest opening, because that's pretty nice right there. If the legs can stretch, stretch the legs. Now, as before, the spine we take care of first, laying it out and extending it. Then the arms and legs stretch away from the spine, away from the skull. And then there is the integration of the breathing and the release of space in the inner body, pelvis, abdomen, chest, throat, head. Now, you can make this more active, less active. Pratima, if you have more space going toward and away from the camera to stretch your legs, feel free. Or yes, just push those legs straight. Toes up the wall. Keep going to the, nope, heels on the floor. toes up the wall, just like that, and stretch your legs straight. Your knees are bent. Yeah, make them straight. You can widen those feet to hip width if you like. That can make them easier to straighten. Okay, it's time to come up and get ready for round 2. So one thing at a time, bend the knees, come out, bend the elbows, then make sure your buttocks are on the chair seat and come up lifting your chest. Now watch and you'll see the next part. So Lena, I'll show you a different way of doing because the chair isn't there, but just wait, I'll show you. So you sit as before. This blanket here below gives you 2 options. If you are more flexible, thread your feet over the top of that chair rung. You see how I'm doing this. Thread your feet through so your knees are bent and it's like you're in Virasana on the rung of the chair. Okay, and I'll just show from here, you've got to get your hips toward the edge of the chair. So you see how much my leg is folding. We've done this before, and you can see if this is reasonable, then stay with me. Lengthen your spine, push with your arms till your head comes to its support. So you lengthen your spine by pushing, by using the opening your elbows, pushing with your arms, and you come to balance. And you let your arms go overhead, or you let them stretch, or you don't use support and you go down farther. All your choice. Now, if this is too much, all you do is put your toes at the front end of this blanket and then push back. So now you're in this much more open, bent-legged position, and everything else is the same. If your knees won't bend enough to get you on the rung, be on the floor, but pad your feet. And if you stay off sticky mat, it gets easier. So Lena, here's your pile. You sit in front and put your hips right near this pile. Maybe, watch, maybe if you can sit in front of that pile with the hips lower, do, and lie back on it. Yes, yes, yes. Is that comfortable, Lena? Comfy? You have pain? You must unmute yourself.
Should my feet go under the blankets?
Not necessarily. But you see, if I'm far away and my hips are off this blanket, that is comfy to me, but just my chest is up. If I bring it closer, so it kind of touches my feet, it supports my low back better. So actually the feet don't count. It's how your back feels. So bringing this support close to your sacrum tailbone will probably put it on your feet. And that doesn't matter. That looks comfy to me. Is it?
Yes, yes.
Good. Yes, Emilia. Now, for those who can, if the neck and head are free, you can, I think, Lena, you won't do this because you don't have a chair. Just leave those arms overhead. The rest of you might be able to run the arms in between the front chair legs. Pratima, you might be able to, between the front chair legs and catch your ankles through, no, go underneath the chair seat and in between the front chair legs, that's the back chair legs. Do you feel your, never mind, Pratima, go back where you were. It's about time to come out anyhow. So the way to come out, if possible, is one thing at a time. You can bring your arms out and hold on to the chair, and then you can unthread your legs, most of us, and then adjust your hips and sit up. And just be upright on the chair, long spine. And now do small twists, small, just to break the grip on the back if there was one. So you would sit, Lena, just cross-legged or in Virasana either way, and just little movements. Okay, now please come out. And everybody, you either get a brick or a bolster or a blanket folded high enough. This is too high, but I'm just saying, high enough for you to take Bharadvajasana with that buttock supported and near a wall. So just think of this as a featureless wall. So I have enough support underneath my hips that I can sit on the right buttock with the right side next to a wall and my feet tucked off to the left. So this is me facing you, and you imagine that there's a wall right at near my mat. Okay. Okay, so I'm not being fully understood, so I'm going to go turn my camera a little bit and show. You have to get your right side near the wall. This is your right side near a wall. And your feet are tucked to the left. Your right foot is in swastikasana and your left foot is in virasana. thighs running parallel to the wall. And you scooch in fairly close. Don't let the wall push you away, but get in fairly close. So can you watch what I do first? Okay. I'm going to do Bharadvajasana, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently. The lower body is doing its usual thing. Stretch through that Virasana foot, push the little toe of your left foot down. You take your right hand to the left hand to the right knee, and the right hand, this wall side hand, is going behind you to the wall. So if I'm turned this way, it's behind me with the palm facing the wall. And what I want to do is think about a back bend. Pull my chest up, look up the wall and turn. Look up the wall and turn. Pull, look up the wall and turn. Don't straighten your neck. The idea is pull your chest up, get your shoulders down, move that thoracic spine in so much that you could let your head back and turn and come out. Turn around. You need to see it from the other side. I can't see you, but watch this so you get what's happening, please. I'm turning away from you so you see my back. I'm going toward the wall. That back arm is externally rotated. And Amelia, you just take the support that makes sense. Keep it down on a brick, maybe. So this spine has to come in and up. Shoulders back and down, spine in and up. And I turn. I'm swooping my sternum up to the ceiling. Lifting my chest up to the ceiling. You go. Don't lean back, don't lean forward. The wall is kind of a guide. Go up the wall and turn. As tall as you can possibly be. The right hand is pulling on the left knee so that that shoulder blade can come down and you can scoop those right ribs in and up. Left shoulder back. And out you come slowly. So it's a Bharadvajasana that is very sweepingly declaring its kind of backbend nature. And if you look in light on yoga, if you look at how Iyengar is doing this pose, and I'll do this knee instead of this knee, but it is just this immense curvature and freedom of the spine to move into the twist. That upward sweep is so clear in his pose. It's on my wall somewhere. So come away from the wall and prop yourself up as high as you need to. You did both sides, yes? At the wall. Yes, okay, good. I didn't interrupt you midstream. So this time, if you want, you can keep the same level of pose. That would be using hands on the knee for support and turning. If you want to take more pose, Amelia, you won't take more pose because it involves that action that's not helpful. So you will take the smaller pose, yeah, with a brick. Those who will do more, wrap the elbow, wrap the arm to catch. This will be your right arm is catching the left upper arm. And I should say, if the strapping is very stiff, use if the clasping is stiff, use a strap. Swing the hand to the knee in front. Your back forearm is already telling your spine to spread up and then turn. Lift that spine up. It looks like a back bend. Starts feeling like a back bend. Turn away from your feet, stretching the lower arm, straightening it, and as you do, it pulls those ribs up and you turn and come out and stretch your legs and change sides. So it's the right foot in, left foot swastikasana, right foot virasana. Sit high enough that those hips can be quiet. You would take a strap around this back arm so your hand has something to hold on to. So the left hand reaches to catch the right forearm, and you turn, right hand coming to the right knee. Now, as you begin straightening and moving in the pose, your spine is being told by this back forearm to move in and to extend, to open around that arm. So that back bend action is key to the pose. Now, when you straighten that left arm, straighten the left arm, it pulls your right arm and your ribs around. So lift your chest, sort of fly up and over and around that pose. The head and neck go where it's easy to go. Don't force the neck. Now, come out. Stretch your legs. And I'll say again, it's maybe not so very clear in Zoom format, but when you come into this pose, this arm is important. And it really does want to go straight. So you don't want to pull the twist around with the bent elbow or just let it be passively like this. You need to work to straighten that arm. You can see I'm not doing anything but responding to straightening the arm. You can see what happens in the trunk just by straightening that arm. This is bent, this is straight. So it's significant what that arm does. Stretch your legs. We're almost done. You need to sit cross-legged and put some kind of support in front of you. I'll turn sideways. Anything, whatever you've got. Bricks, blankets. And just sit and come forward to your elbows. And then come forward to your forehead. So don't try to pull yourself long, but just relax that spine. So if it likes being round, let it be round. If it likes to lengthen, let it lengthen. Do what comes easily. Rest. You arrange the arms, legs, and spine, and then breathe for, a little bit. The effort. Then you come up, change the crossing, and go forward again. Go forward carefully, rest on the elbows, soften the back, lengthen it if it feels like lengthening, and come forward. I sway a little bit because it helps me release one side and the other of the low back. Then come up. So Lena, pile up those blankets the way you had them and reserve one for a small one for the head. Keep the big ones for the lower end. Everybody else, you get your chair with a sticky mat on it or a blanket on it. And you have another blanket as a head support. And one last blanket. And Lena, you don't need this last blanket. Just at the foot of that chair. Now, you lie down with your sacrum on that blanket and your head on the other one, and then push. You see how I'm pushing my spine to go toward my head and the blanket to go away, just till I get very completely settled and comfy in this low back lumbar region. So I'm just pushing. This blanket is going to stay under, at the very minimum, it's going to stay under your tailbone and your two buttock bones. And at the maximum, it's going to stay under the lower sacrum. It's never going under the upper sacrum. So Lena, you just get your shins and maybe a little thigh on those blankets, and another little blanket or something under the head. And after a minute or so of settling, push that tailbone blanket completely away from you and see if it feels lovely. technically class is over. You don't have to get up immediately unless you've got another appointment. So for those who are sitting up and those who are still in Shavasana, I say Namaskar and thank you, as always.